Robert Sims just figured out his wife has been playing him the whole time. And it's the most satisfying thing this show has done all season. But that's not even the biggest twist in episode 5. Let's get into it.
This episode actually kicks off with a flashback, so we get to see the events of the day that Juliette returned to the silo.
And it casts an entirely different light on the first 4 episodes. Because while we've spent those 4 episodes thinking Robert Sims was working with his wife Camille, working with the AI, that's not the case.
It definitely highlights the cracks in the relationship and the distrust that he had towards her. And those scenes were actually shot in a very, a literal different light than the rest of the episode.
So it's interesting because we know Robert Sims wanted to be the IT Shadow. That was kind of his season 1, season 2 arc. And we see the algorithm kicking him and his son out of the room. You've been wanting an explanation for that and what happened since we saw that in episode 1. And to be honest, it didn't really seem like much happened. He just kind of took his son back to the room and waited for Camille to come home. It's when she walks through the door that we see him kind of flip, right? She's having that conversation with him and she's talking about taking care of Bernard and Juliette and Lucas Kyle. And she says, you've done those types of things for the head of IT before. Not your wife, not the woman you love or that relationship, but this is a job now, the head of IT.
And he sits straight up when she talks to him like that. It goes from we're intimate, we're in love to you're my boss. And I think he just went with it because he is used to being in that role, kind of always the bridesmaid. But when he actually went down to do the deed with Bernard, the veil lifted. He was not able to do it. And I think at that point he decided he couldn't support it.
And Bernard knew exactly whose side he was on. Every breath that he took, he was using to say, I know you want to kill me. I know the voice told you to kill me. Don't do it. We need Juliette. Here's what's happening. He didn't waste a second to try to convince Robert of what's actually happening. And Robert has to have been curious about what the voice was telling them. And he says, I was never allowed to know why. Or, they're talking about the pact versus the order. And he says, again, the pact gives a bunch of rules and why the relics have to be hidden, but doesn't tell me why. So I think for him to finally be let in on the know a little bit wins his trust immediately.
And Bernard knows that. He knows that knowledge is currency here because they are a very sheltered society. And with Sims being so close to the knowledge and never quite getting a peek at it, he was going to win them over. And Bernard was spilling the beans across. So we learned a lot just from his few interactions.
And his wife is keeping secrets from him immediately, saying, I can't tell you. So you're not in that trusted circle. Or, it's not us versus everyone else the way you would think that it would be. And knowing some of the things she's said about how, it's okay if our son doesn't remember us so long as he's alive. And Robert telling Juliette that he was hoping the Pez dispenser would help his son remember him, just is another layer that they're not on the same page at all, and that he's a lot more emotionally driven than I think any of us thought in the whole 3 seasons we've been watching him, where he's just seemed like this one-note villain, but he's not. He had a lot of depth, we just didn't get to see it until now.
Yeah, and then Robert actually uses that Pez dispenser to help Juliette get her memories back. It's very cool that he saw the power in that one relic that we know from seeing the present day or the before times, how powerful it was to the story, that he knew that would trigger her.
And it's just a Pez dispenser.
Yeah.
It wasn't the watch. It wasn't, any of the other things. You would have thought the story about her father who sacrificed, George Wilkins, who also died in all of these, big moments. You would have thought that would be it. But it was the Pez dispenser and kind of the more jovial thing. So I think that's a really interesting part as well, how it struck the chord for multiple people, similar to how the magazine something lighthearted and fun, was bringing multiple people to tears. And it just goes to show how sheltered they are and how, they've never seen anything like that before, and how it would have such an emotional tie to them. Very interesting choice.
And with us being officially in the back half of the season, I think the pressure points are becoming very obvious. We actually got a peek into critical supply this episode, and it literally started the countdown. 2 months.
And I think we were kind of watching the sheriff, Paul, and we were wondering, where is this investigation going? What's the point? And we kind of got our answer this time, that Orla was somebody that they thought that they could trust to investigate missing supplies from critical supplies. And obviously her dying, you would imagine, is tied to whoever's taking these supplies that they need, and the lights, because they need the lights.
And it's insane to think just the volume, 50 years worth of lights is missing. What could they be doing with them?
Exactly. And it's not just the lights, and I think they said they have 2 months to figure something out, but it's not just that. It's also the pipe. So Juliette got her memories, and now she remembers that Silo 1 can put poison into their silo at any time and kill them. But she doesn't know, she knows that Silo 17 capped their pipe, but she doesn't know how. And they're going to need to figure that out quickly in order to stop that from happening. And at the same time, we still have Camille and the Voice monitoring Juliette and trying to deal with that problem and take care of her before any memories can come back and she can restart this rebellion, which we know she already is.
Yeah, and then to add into all of that, the Lucas Kyle of it all. He saw a different voice at a different part of the silo, and we still haven't quite dug into his experience and where he's been. We're seeing more of him, but we don't really know what he's been up to.
And interesting that he kind of was reflecting on his time in the mines and saying that, he kind of learned something in there and about staying quiet because nobody really cares. So interesting. All of these pieces, of course, are coming together. We're still waiting to see Solo. I believe it's got to be coming. Why else were you in the mines? But all of these different pressure points are definitely putting, time at the front of the issue, and it's going to be a race now to survive.
And we also saw some pressure building in the Before Times story, because up until now they've just been investigating. They've had a hunch, they're trying to have some conversations to see what really happened in the mission, and we saw some consequences of that. Somebody remotely tapped into the car, which wasn't even a very advanced car. He specifically got an old minivan that was from a flyer typed onto a pole, but somebody is trying to get them in trouble and take over the car.
And it just goes back to the previous episode when Helen was saying, they'll be watching to make sure that we're following through. And then Daniel was, very vocally, very loud about how Sam was helping him and how he trusts him and he thinks that this is all going to work out. And kind of naive in how he wasn't speaking in code. We saw it in the current times in the silo as well, where Bernard was saying, make sure you speak in code, be very secretive. We've heard multiple times they're always listening. So I definitely think Daniel and Helen might have made a couple mistakes along the way and are now going to pay for it in the next episode. That's our take on episode 5. Robert seeing through his wife, Juliette finally having her memory back, and the AI connection nobody's talking about. If you're loving these breakdowns, hit that like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now tell us in the comments, do you think both Helen and Daniel make it into the silo? We'll see you on the couch. Talk to you soon. Bye.